What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bass. In today's video, we are talking about the fall transition and, more importantly, where do bass go during this transition? You know, you might have been on an awesome summer topwater bite, but seemingly overnight it vanished. Today's video, we're talking about where they're going and the baits to catch them on. Let's go. The last couple videos we've kind of talked about, you know, the early fall transition. We've talked about my favorite baits for the month of October, and all of that stuff applies to today's video. So if you haven't watched those videos, we'll go ahead and link those up above and down below in the video description. But the fall transition can be a really tough transition to follow along where these fish are going. You know, you might have been on an awesome summer frog bite on grass. You might have been on an awesome swim bait bite, but seemingly overnight these fish just turn into ghosts and they disappear on you. And it happens every year. No matter the different types of fishery, whatever it may be, those fish are on the move and often leave you scratching your head where they go. You know, one of the questions we get asked quite a bit is, how do you know when that fall transition starts? And hopefully you guys have watched some of these earlier videos in this series or earlier the videos this month, but it's really, really simple, guys. It really comes down to three things. One is the time of day, length of day, right? As your days get shorter, that is kind of that start of that transition. Number two, and probably more important to that, is your overnight temperatures, your lows. How cold is it getting at night? You know, your day temperatures, when we're out and about, it might seem the same, but when you get up in the morning and you're like, oh shoot, I should probably put on a hoodie or a sweatshirt, something like that, it's almost too late. And really the third thing I realized that really tells me when that fall transition is in full swing, if you look on a menu at any coffee shop around the country and you see a pumpkin spice latte, you've missed it. It has already happened. So it can be tricky, guys. That fall transition, again, those fish just move. So today's video, we're going to talk about where they're going, why they're going there, and more importantly, my favorite baits to catch them depending on the different situations you may have. Maybe you're in a grass fishery, maybe you're in a Clearwater Highland reservoir. You know, those baits aren't going to be the same. You're not going to catch them on, well, there's a little bit of overlap, but typically you're not going to catch them on a frog in a Highland Clearwater reservoir, right? So we're going to cover all of that. And when I was pulling the gear to discuss in today's video, I just started laughing, right? Because it's, you know, bass fishing, it could be so simple. We can simplify it as much as just take a green pumpkin, soft plastic worm, throw it out there on a Texas rig and catch fish. Or you could have 20 or 30 different rod combos depending on where you're going, the different types of baits. You know, you can go so far down this rabbit hole. And so when I was pulling the gear for this video, you know, I've done this video, you know, we typically do these videos every year on these transition videos. It's just to help you guys, you know, move along your knowledge of your fishery, kind of give you guys some help as these transitions happen. So through the years, we've done these videos, either matter, you know, or I will do them, we'll kind of switch off. But so I was pulling gear and I just started laughing because today on Chickamauga, I have 4 or 5 main baits, maybe 5 or 6 main baits that I will be throwing here. But if I was going to, let's say, Dale Hollow or some Highland Clearwater reservoir, I would scrap almost all of it and throw stuff completely different. So today's video, I'm going to try and simplify it for you, but I'm going to apologize in advance if we go down into that rabbit hole, because again, bass fishing, you can go down deep into that rabbit hole and get as deep as you want. And so we're going to cover as much of it as possible. And then if you are an angler, you're a beginner angler, or you don't want to go down deep into that, you can just back up and just apply some of it, not all of it. But would rather give you guys too much information than not enough. So first off, fall transition, we talked about your overnight temps. You know, as your overnight temps are dropping and those fish feel that first kind of that crisp morning, they're on the move. So what are they looking for and why? So I talked about it in that top 5 baits video. You know, that was a really hard video to do because of this specific reason, right? It depends on the types of fishery you got. And so I kind of gave the best baits depending on where you are that would work in all the different types of fisheries. So I still believe in all those. Today we're going to go a little bit more in depth. But it is all about bait fish. These fish right now are all about bait fish. It doesn't matter if you're on a clear water highland reservoir fishing for spotted bass that have bait balls out in 150 feet of water and they're blowing up on the surface, or you're in Gunnersville catching them on a frog in the grass. These fish are all about bait, and they are bait driven. You know, as these balls of baits start really getting condensed, I guess I'd say, you definitely see them more and more in the fall. You know, this bait doesn't go anywhere throughout the year. We just see it more prevalent during this time of the year, in early spring as well. Those big bait balls, you'll see them flickering up on the surface. Hopefully you're seeing bass blowing up on them. But that is the most important thing for your fishery. If you're fishing a fishery that has shad or bait fish, you know, baby bluegill, crappie, that sort of stuff, threadfin shad, gizzard shad, find the bait and you will find the fish. Now, one little asterisk to that, or one exemption or exception, would be if your fishery doesn't have those types of bait fish in it, then it's all about crawdads, and we'll talk about that briefly here later on too. But again, that fall transition, it happens quick. It can happen overnight. Now that we're in fall, we are, depending on where you are in the country, it's going to be either ahead of us or a little bit slower than us, behind us. But those fish are all about a bait fish. So now that we talked about that, where are they going? If you're herding anything, you want to herd stuff, if possible, into kind of fenced areas, right? You think about guys herding cattle or sheep or whatever it may be, right? You want to herd them into an area that they can't get out of. So behind us, we got a nice big bay back here, right? Sun's still on a little bit, got a nice shade line over here, but you got a nice big bay off of a main. Over here we got a main kind of creek arm that's going back into the back of this bay. But we got a nice big bay back here where those fish can really corral that bait fish, the balls of bait fish, back in this bay, and they will, I've seen them, they'll literally line up. You know, maybe you've seen like the killer whales on maybe National Geographic, where they'll line up on the shoreline and just look at the seals, hold those seals there, sea lions, whatever. Same thing, the bass do the same thing. It's all about the bait fish, and it's all about condensing them, corralling them in an area where they can feed on them for weeks at a time. You know, I've seen spots hold bait fish balls for, you know, 10, 14 days, and those fish just hammer on them whenever they choose to. So you're looking for backs of bays, choke points, funnel points, where those fish can really corral those bait balls in, and like I said, keep them pinned up in the back. Now, if you're on, let's say, a highland reservoir, they will still do that, but typically a highland reservoir, you got your real steep canyons, you got your real steep creek channels, that sort of stuff. So those fish, a lot of times, especially spotted bass, are going to be more nomadic, right? They're going to be out there in open water, and you kind of have to use side imaging, use your eyes looking for birds, looking for blow-ups, that sort of stuff. But we'll talk about that here shortly. But let's talk about what we got here. We're on the TVA. It's a river system. You could probably throw that into like a lowland reservoir-ish kind of thing with the backwaters. So to try and simplify it for you guys, you know, I kind of racked my brain of how I could really help you guys understand or make it easier to understand. And what I want to do is really simplify it and break it down to shallow water and deep water, right? We know that after the summer, during summer, some of those fish, about half the fish, stay shallow. They're up in the grass. That's the fish you're catching on a frog or a fluke, or you're punching, flipping, getting real deep into that vegetation. And the other 50%, you know, they're out there on the ledges, they're out there on the humps, the offshore rock piles, you know, so you have your two different categories of fish. So today's video, that's what I'm really gonna break it down: shallow fish and deep fish. So let's start shallow. Shallow is all about, well, both are all about bait fish, but shallow is all about lively vegetation, grass. You know, as this fall transition goes full swing, you're in the fall and you start that winter transition, some lakes, some water, they drop the water level, they drop the elevation of the lake to get ready for winter. So that will suck fish out, it'll kill grass. But right now you're looking for that lively grass, that real bright, healthy green grass. If you're in a bay like this, you know, you're gonna have to fish it, you're gonna have to pay attention to where these fish are blowing up. You're gonna see where these fish are really positioned at. And I like to use fast moving baits. Talked about that in that last video. It's reaction, reaction, reaction. In fact, most of these, if not all of these except for the jig, are all gonna, well, I guess a jig can be reaction, is all gonna be fast moving baits. Swim baits, top waters, underspins, glide baits, jerk baits, flukes, frogs. I mean, it's all fast. You know, you're trying to cover a lot of water to find these fish. So this scenario we got back here, you're gonna fish all of this. We got a nice big grass line out here. We got some mats right out here in the middle. But when you're fishing it, pay attention. When you get grass coming back on your square bill, pay attention to the grass. You know, is it brown? Does it look like it's dying, or does it look healthy? Because as we go through this transition, a lot of this grass is going to die, and those fish are going to move to the last remaining healthy grass. You find that grass patch, that's when you can flip them, frog them, fluke them, and catch a ton of fish. Eventually, they're going to pull out and go to the mouth of these backwaters. So kind of stay on that transition, but for now, they're going to be in the back, hopefully showing themselves to you, blowing up on the bait fish. You know, you'll see the little bait up on the surface flickering and stuff, and hopefully you're seeing some blow-ups. But it's all about grass, and once that grass dies, they're gonna start pulling off of that to your hard cover, your hard structure. So laydowns, rock piles, chunk rock, things that they can be, that's gonna be there through the winter. That's where they're gonna choose to winter. So that's where they're gonna transition off of the backs of the bays, out of the backs of the bays, and move to the mouths, the deep water access, and really focus in on that hard cover. But for now, right now, to go out and catch fish, I got probably really 3 or 4 key baits, key styles of baits. So I'm gonna cover those for you. Because it's grass, can't talk about a fall fishing video in grass, especially down here on the TVA, without talking about a frog. Now, I have a couple different frogs tied on today. Your typical, traditional 65 style walking frog. And then my other one is gonna be, this is actually, I don't think I've showed you guys this frog yet. This is a teckle. This is the Morocco, I believe. I'll link everything down below in the video description. But check this out. You guys have seen the other teckles with the spinning tail that's like a weedless whopper plopper. This has like a plastic, flashy rattle to it. Again, it's all about the bait fish, right? So I'm going with kind of a bait fish color, something with some silver, some flash, and I am gonna cover a ton of water with this. I'm gonna fish this whole bay, move it quickly, and watch and wait and hope for blowups, right? You're gonna fish all this grass, and once you find a key area, that's really where you can slow down and pick it apart. But again, you're trying to find where these fish are. So typically, if I'm throwing a frog, I'm throwing some kind of toad style or quick moving frog. The teckle, the spro, again, I will link all my favorites down below in the video description. But once I find the specific mat or grass patch that they're in, that's where I can slow down and throw the walking frog. So that's what I'm starting with the frog. The other topwater bait that I have with me, and I'm gonna do a more, it's so hard trying to narrow all this stuff down for you guys in one video, but we'll do a more in-depth top water video here shortly. But the other top water I have on is a walking style bait, something that's side to side, a lot of flash. Again, we covered that in that last video that I did about the best baits for October. But again, bait fish, flashy, moving quick. There's something about that side to side action. You can go with a whopper plopper, but again, I really like a walking style bait. And again, this overlaps with the deep water fish as well. You know, those big spotted bass that are out there chasing either herring or shad out there in 100 feet of water, you know, that bait works out there really, really well. So those are the top water baits I have tied on today. That's why I have those two different frogs tied on. Again, trying to simplify it for you guys, trying to not have this rabbit hole too deep. Next couple baits for you. A lot of these baits, guys, are gonna be interchangeable. They're gonna kind of fill the same purpose, right? Like an underspin per se. An underspin is a great bait this time of the year. Again, you're adding flash, bait fish, weedless, around grass. You can throw this right in the middle of the grass. As it comes over the top, let it fall down in the holes, fish it around your grass lines. But a swim jig, even a chatterbait, right? Or a fluke, same type of baits. So if you don't have a ton of confidence in an underspin, maybe throw a swim jig, or vice versa. You know, if you don't have confidence in a square bill, maybe throw a chatterbait. So you don't have to throw all of these, but this is what I have confidence in, and a lot of them have multi-purposes, I guess is what I should say. But an underspin, and then the fluke. Again, you're in there, you're in that grass, you're in that dense vegetation. Those fish are hunkered down in that stuff, and every time they blow up, it's gonna drive you crazy if you can't get in there, especially if you have a treble hook bait, like a big walking bait. So this is actually the donkey rig, that double fluke rig. Showed you guys how to tie, I don't know, maybe a week or two ago. But either this rig or just a single fluke. In that grass, again, you're working it speed kills, you're working it fast. Twitch, 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 twitch. Let it fall. Twitch, twitch, twitch. Get that thing up, dancing, skipping, all on the surface. Again, we did that in-depth video on it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But fishing this bay, you are going to want to pick it apart. And again, once you find those fish, switch it up. You know, don't keep throwing the same bait at those fish, because they're going to be there for, like I said, they could be there for half an hour. They could be there for 2 weeks. Totally depends on the scenario, but you want to change up your presentation to them so they don't get wise to you and what you're throwing. So a fluke, an underspin, a chatterbait, and that about sums it up besides the square bill. You know, if you're fishing in grass, obviously you can't throw the square bill. If you're fishing above grass, there's some really cool square bills that just get down, you know, in that 1 to 2 foot range where that grass is down below the surface, just enough where you can throw the whopper plopper, you can throw your walking bait, or subsurface. Sometimes those fish don't want to come up and eat on the surface, throwing a little square bill. Again, you're gonna get really, really aggressive. Really, really aggressive. As this bait hits the grass or gets down in the grass, you're gonna pop it, break it free, pause it. Again, you guys know, burn, 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 pause. It's almost a staple in every video now, right? But get real quick, real aggressive with these baits. Fishing the grass lines. Again, keep switching it up. Give those fish something that they haven't seen or heard. You know, that last bait was a silent bait. This one's got a little bit of a knocker. Put a little bit more flash to that treble hook. But again, this bait's gonna dive 4 to 5 feet or so, so it might be a little too deep for this little spot right here. But again, you're turning that handle almost as fast as you can. You're getting real aggressive with it, popping it through that grass, pausing it, and going again. But shallow fishermen, guys, shallow fish this time of the year. Let's take a look at this grass. I don't know if you guys can see this or if it'll show up or not. But But that grass is really brown looking, not healthy. Got a few strands of real bright neon green stuff, but to me that is dying grass. So just pay attention to the different types of grass you're hooking and what it looks like. But shallow fish, that is my lineup right there. Again, those fish are in that lively grass and they're gonna be chasing bait. So frog, if you can, an open top water with treble hooks, walking baits, or whopper plopper, something that moves fairly quickly. Underspin, chatterbait, fluke, or the square bill, and that will cover it, guys. As far as colors, again, you're gonna go flashy, you're gonna go bait fishy, if that makes sense. So your ghost minnows, stuff, your chartreuse shads, something with some flash to it. Specifically, if you guys haven't tried, I've seen it now in a lot of lines of baits. If you guys haven't tried something that's kind of full chrome, this is kind of a, I won't say new deal, but it's definitely a trend I see starting, and I've had a ton of luck with this. You can actually see this bait right here. That one ended up in my hand recently. I had to cut it out, but that guy right there in that, this is that little Shower Blows 105 in that full metal, or again, I don't know the specific name. I'll link it down below, but if it's all about that flash, but those bait fish, and if you guys haven't tried something in that full chrome, you're definitely missing out, and get them while you can, because I see a lot of them moving and selling out. So that is the shallow fish. We talked about where they're going. It's all about that grass. As that grass dies, then they'll pull to that hard cover, hard structure, dock pilings. If you have a lake that has fish attractors, they'll pull to that. I saw one of these new ones over here. Laydowns, that sort of stuff, and that's where they're gonna winter. So now let's kind of switch gears. I'll move some rods around and we'll talk about your clear water, your highland reservoirs, or your fisheries that aren't necessarily all about the grass. You guys that are just getting into bass fishing and you have maybe just one rod or maybe just a couple rods, I've been there. Get yourself a rod that is really universal, like a 7'2", I'll say 7 foot to 7'4", medium heavy rod. That way you can throw your top waters on it. You could crank on it if you need to. You could throw a jig or an underspin or a fluke. Get rods that are more universal. That way you can kind of transition through these different baits, try them all without spending a ton of money on the different combos. And then on the flip side, if you're coming out of that and you want technique specific stuff, we'll link some of our favorite rods down below in the video description, favorite combos for the different techniques. But just want to do this video for everybody, no matter the experience level or the budget or the confidence or the experience, anything like that. So we just want to cover it for everybody. But let's talk about clear water. So highland reservoir stuff, even lowland reservoir stuff that has clear water, those fish are going to be a little bit more spooky in that clear water. So again, I have a whole completely different lineup of 5 or 6 baits for you guys. Some of them overlap, some don't, but you know, like I said, I laughed when I was trying to pull all this gear for this video, because if I was fishing here, it'd be completely different than if I was going somewhere else and fishing clear, deep water. So let's talk about that. So we talked about the shallow fish, the deep fish. Again, it's all about that bait, but it's gonna be harder to find. You're gonna have to, as you're fishing, continually scan the horizon, and you're gonna be listening, looking for active fish blowing up. You know, you could be fishing this long tapering point off of the main lake, long tapering point that separates 2 river arms, and a quarter mile away from you out in the river or out in the main body, you'll see just bombs going off, and that's those fish, smallmouth, spotted bass, sometimes largemouth, have those fish just corralled. There's big wolf packs of those bass just taking turns just blowing up on those fish. So it could be a little frustrating to try and find them in open water, deep water, but when you do, these baits will help you catch them. So, and even here, you know, on this river system or this Chickamauga, you know, there is a deep water bite as well. So, you know, a lot of guys like to fish shallow in the grass. We'll be throwing frogs here for the next month or two, especially as that water drops and exposes more of the mats, more of the grass. We'll be throwing frogs. But there is a deep water bite too. You pull out to the mouths of the creek channels, you pull out to the main body, you find your humps, you find your ledges, that main river arm. That's where those fish are gonna be. So again, shallow fish, deep fish. So let's talk deep fish. I'll get this one right out of the way because we talked about it a little bit already. If your fishery is not bait fish driven, it is most likely a crawdad lake. All about the jig in those fisheries. If it's a pond, doesn't have bait fish or bluegill, typically most ponds have bluegill, but if there's not some kind of sunfish like that, definitely try throwing a jig, because I've found that if you don't see a lot of bait fish activity, that is where your jig will come to shine. Again, you're gonna look for that real hard bottom, so you know, your big chunk rock, your rock piles, boulders, that sort of stuff that crawdads like to live around. If you have a nice mud transition, sometimes they like to burrow in there and make their little homes, live there. So you can find, you'll know if that's what those fish are doing, because the under part of their belly will be kind of orange or reddish. You know, they're down there in that mud, rooting around under their chin, under their jaw right here, will be kind of red, and you can tell they're crawdad eaters. But don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, right? We're already getting down there pretty good. So some of you guys can back out or keep diving with me, keep digging. But if you don't have bait fish in your fishery, try a jig. Now, back to the bait fish. Where do I start? Bait fish fisheries, we're talking deep. I guess number one for me is going to be a deep diving crankbait. Either the tactical DD crank or a 6XD. If you need to go deeper, go with a 10XD. But again, you're covering water, you're trying to find those active fish. You're either watching your electronics if you have them, you're watching birds, you're watching for surface activity, you're using everything that you have to your advantage. If you don't see any fish around, you don't see fish on your electronics, keep moving. But a crankbait is an awesome bait, not just to cover tons of water until you find those schools of fish, but to actually trigger those bites if you are in or around fish that aren't in a feeding mood. You know, you start throwing this really quickly, 7-8 gear ratio reel, so you're throwing it really quickly and you deflect off of a rock or a limb or something, and that bait has a directional change. That's gonna trigger the hardwired feed mode in that bass, and with something that deflects, you can really make those fish eat when they don't want to. So deep diving crankbait, and when I say deep, I say anything from 12 to like 22 feet, 25 feet. So again, that tactical DD crank, something like a 6XD, a DT16, a 10XD, something like that. Again, you're gonna go something with flash, sun's setting, so we're getting a little bit darker here, but a little bit of flash, kind of that ghost minnow-ish color, and a little bit of flash to really stand out and get those fish to eat. But a crankbait for deep water for me is my number one go-to. Now, it's hard to limit, guys. It's really hard to limit this. So I wanted to give you guys all of my favorite baits, and you guys decide which ones you want to try out with, try fishing with, or which ones maybe you already have confidence in and you can just apply it to your fishery. But let's keep it moving. We'll go casting baits, and then we'll do some cool spoon stuff, because that gets really fun when you can sit out over tops of those big schools of fish and drop big heavy chunks of metal on them and have them eat. But some kind of underspin. You know, I talked about it a little bit shallow, or a little bit in the shallow part of this video. This is actually, I believe this is a fish head spin. Again, I'll link it down below in the video description, but you can see it's got a scrounger head on it and then a blade. So you're gonna have a ton of action on this bait, and then you're gonna have that added flash. You know, a little bit different than, say, the owner flashy swimmer where it's rigged weedless in that grass, something like this, you're going to have an exposed hook, and it's going to be easier to get those fish hooked with a less of a hook set. But some kind of underspin you guys have to throw on those deeper fish. Now, if you're in an ultra clear fishery, you might have to downsize and go with a Cool Baits little 1/8 ounce underspin on a 2.8 or some kind of smaller swim bait. But for the most part, I'm throwing something anywhere from 3.5 to almost 5 inches. That's that little Easy Shiner. That's that 4-inch. Again, I'll link all this stuff down below in the video description. But more importantly, throw an underspin. You know, as these fish, I guess I should talk about it a little bit. As these fish are just kind of swimming around and have that bait ball corralled, you know, you'll see them move. You'll be in a bay, they'll blow up on them, and then, you know, 10 minutes later, they'll be 100 yards from you. They're going to move that ball all around. You know, this is all shallow back here. They're going to keep that fish, that bait, those fish are going to keep that bait pinned to the back. But in deep water, clear water, highland reservoirs, that sort of fishery, those fish can just move around. So you're going to be kind of chasing these things to stay in casting distance so you can get your bait in and around that bait ball. But a jerk bait. So we talked about the fluke for shallow fish, a jerk bait for your deep fish or deep clearer fish. You know, you can go with, this is actually the mega bat, this is the 110, but you can go with a +1, a +2, you know, get down to that 10, 12, 15, 16 foot depth, depending on what depth you need to be at. But again, you're not talking about grass. You don't have to worry about your trebles getting all covered in grass. So you can get real aggressive with that jerk bait. Again, it's mimicking those dying fish, that erratic bait fish. It's all about bait fish, and a jerk bait really mimics a fleeing or a erratic, scared bait fish. And that really triggers, again, those fish to eat. Just like the crankbait, you can sometimes get those fish to commit to a bait if they weren't in a feeding mode. One other one real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But a glide bait. Now this works in both your shallow and your deep fisheries. This guy right here, this is actually this is a Tackle Warehouse exclusive color. You know, out in Northern California, we have kokanee, we have Shasta, Lake Shasta, that has some real cool looking rainbow trout, but that's kind of that ghosty color. This works on your herring lake, so if you're a herring fishery, that color works really well. But if you're a shallow fisherman trying to catch fish in and around the grass, go with either light trout or some kind of bluegill pattern, something with a little bit of flash. You know, that light trout has that gold color, just really stands out. Doesn't really look like anything, just looks like, doesn't look like anything specific, just looks like it could be a lot of things. But that guy right there. So a glide bait is one of those baits that is universal for your deep and shallow fish, but don't be afraid to throw that around your bait balls. You know, a lot of this bait is going to be, it's all going to differ in size. They could be keying in on little microscopic, I say microscopic, but little 1-inch bait, or they could be targeting, you know, 6 to 8 inch thread fins. Totally depends, but try to match the hatch. But if you're looking for a bigger bite, try and throw a bait that just has a little bit more drawing power. So that guy right there, that's the S-Waber 168. The Arashi Glide, the Sneaky Pete, those are all fairly inexpensive glide baits, but work and really shine. They shine a lot, but especially this time of the year, and really try to get those big bites. So last thing I want to talk about before we wrap it up, and I might have just said that before this last bait, but I want to talk about, and I know I didn't talk about a jigging spoon or a vertical spoon in last year's video, but I want to talk about some kind of spoon, either a Flutter Spoon or like I said, some kind of jigging spoon. Let's talk about the Flutter Spoon real quick, and then we'll talk about the jigging spoon. Again, these are all different baits that I have confidence in. Right now, if I was going to a clear water fishery, say a lowland or highland reservoir, and I knew I wasn't gonna be going to the backs of the cuts in grass, I was gonna be fishing out a little bit, you know, maybe the mouths of those bays, I'm going with a jerk bait, I'm going with a glide bait, I'm going with a swim bait, either the underspin or like I said, the glide bait. But again, those fish that are keying on those bait balls, I've talked about this for a long time, a lot of those bigger fish aren't actually the fish that are blowing up. You know, a lot of times it's those smaller fish that are doing causing the disturbance on the surface, but those bigger fish are down below and they're just kind of being lazy, letting the wounded or dying bait fish fall down to them. That Flutter Spoon, you know, a 4 or 5 or 6 inch chunk of metal, the way this thing falls down through the water column just really mimics a dying bait fish. You can see right there I added a bobber stop and a little bit of a trailer hook. Little hack there for you guys. Just helps with your hookup ratio, your land ratio. Just getting that extra hook into that fish helps a lot. But a Flutter Spoon, you know, firing it out there, letting it fall and ripping, getting real aggressive with it and letting it fall down, just looks like a wounded or dying bait fish. And then one other one is going to be some kind of tailspin or jigging spoon. This is kind of a combination between the two. I really like the Blade Runner dust spoon for the spoon. This is actually a Blade Runner also. But when you're looking down at your electronics and you see what is best described as lasagna, just layer after layer after layer of not even arches. It's gonna look just like a squiggly line, and you know, there could be 20 or 30 of them just stacked, you know, all the way to bottom, right? Maybe 10 or 15 feet deep of just lasagna or spaghetti. That is fish schooled up, and an awesome bait to really take advantage of those fish this time of the year is gonna be some kind of heavy jigging spoon. I'm talking ounce, ounce and a half, ounce and 3/4. You're gonna drop this thing straight down. And a little tip for you guys, if you're spooning deep, keep your thumb on the spool as it falls. That'll keep the bait from dancing. It actually puts that bait vertical and it just falls like a rocket. So you can get down there quick. Now it's really important to keep on these fish. If you catch one, get them up, get back down there, keep them fired up, you know, because these fish are going to be triggered to that feed mode. You're going to drop it down, you're going to hop it up, let it fall, hop, hop, let it fall. And a lot of times they're going to eat it on that fall, so when you go to hop, it's going to be heavy. And again, we'll do more in-depth videos of almost all of these techniques, but I left it out last year, and if you are a deep fisherman this time of year, you have to throw some kind of vertical spoon. Guys, I have no idea how long this video was or is. I hope it's not too long, and I hope a lot of it makes sense. Again, fall transition, it can be frustrating, but if you figure them out, you could have some of the best fishing of the entire season. You know, a lot of these guys are putting the rods away and they're picking up their deer rifles or their bows. They are going off in the woods to go hunting. So more fish for us, right? So less traffic. You know, a lot of your recreational boats, your wave runners, your wakeboard boats, that sort of stuff, they're getting winterized, right? They're getting ready to sit in the garage. So less traffic, boat traffic, less fishing pressure, and the fish are going to be aggressive. They're looking to feed up. They're really looking to get fat. And right now and early spring are my two favorite times of the year to fish, to catch numbers, you know, lots and lots of fish, and to catch big fish. Again, summertime, a lot of those fish are post-spawn. They're a little bit skinny. Now they're looking to bulk up, get all chubby for winter time. And these baits right here will really shine for you guys if you are a deep clear water fisherman. And I keep saying clear water, it kind of goes hand in hand. I know there's clear shallow water, but in my mind, the fisheries that I like to fish, usually I'm talking 10, 12, 15, 20 feet of visibility. So these baits really work on those fish. But hopefully you guys followed along. Hopefully some of that information will help you guys, even if it's like little bits and pieces the next time you guys go out on the water. It gives you a little bit of confidence because it is a great time to get out on the water. So grab your pumpkin spice latte, go out there and stick a ton of fish. Again, if those fish are on the move, you can't find them in the back anymore, work your way out to that creek channel or that main lake point, and somewhere through there you will find the bait and you will find the bass, and you guys are gonna have some fun. If you guys have any questions, please leave those down below in the comment section. I will try to get to those as soon as possible. Again, I will link all these products, some budget-friendly combos, and everything down below in the video description to make it easy for you guys. Best baits, best colors, kind of broken down by techniques, shallow and deep water. But if you guys learned something from this video or like it, please give us a thumbs up. That really helps our channel, and we continue to grow, guys, pushing on that 500,000 subscriber number, which is just insane. So we really appreciate you guys. Matt and I couldn't be more blessed. We appreciate you guys so much, and hopefully our confidence in this stuff and our explanations are leading to you guys. I mean, I know they are. We get the comments all the time, but hopefully this gives you the confidence to get out there on the water and have success. You guys are awesome. Again, you like this video, thumbs up. Remember to subscribe. We do 3 to 6 videos a week, simply teaching to help you guys catch more and bigger bass. Again, I can't emphasize it or say it enough. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.